5 things you shouldn't do around women. Lowers your value. Modern Stoic. In life, there are certain qualities about you that make you valuable. However, those very qualities can quickly lose their appeal to a woman if you fall into one of these common traps. Regardless of your accomplishments, appearance, or kindness, if you make these mistakes, it changes how she perceives you. It doesn't matter how successful you are, whether your wardrobe is sharp, or how well you treat her. When you engage in these behaviors, it's as though you're broadcasting a message: I'm not as valuable as I could be. Here's the truth. Women are naturally drawn to men who project an aura of confidence, strength, and higher value. This doesn't mean you need to have amassed wealth or climbed the corporate ladder. A guy in school, with a part-time job or starting out in life, can still attract the right woman. Attraction is not about material wealth, but about the energy you bring into the room. It's the unspoken dynamic that changes everything. When a woman feels that you are a higher value than she is, her attraction to you is sparked. But if you come across as someone who doesn't hold yourself in high regard, or worse, make her feel that she's superior to you, the attraction simply won't be there. So let's dive into the 5 things you should never do around women if you want to maintain your value and keep her interest. On. The trap of auditioning. When interacting with women, many men unknowingly fall into the trap of auditioning for their attention. This means they treat the interaction as though they are vying for a role, whether it's to be her boyfriend or to secure a more intimate connection. While this might seem harmless, it's a subtle mistake that lowers a man's value in the eyes of a woman. Let me explain why this mindset is problematic and how to shift it to your advantage. First, the problem arises when a man is too eager to impress a woman, often to the point of appearing desperate, even if he tries to mask it with confidence. A man may seem cool on the outside, but if he's subconsciously trying to get the part by saying the right things, doing the right things, or performing to win her approval, the woman will sense it. Women can pick up on subtle clues, whether a man is overly attentive, trying to please her too much, or constantly seeking validation. This creates an imbalance in the interaction, where the woman feels she is in the higher value position. In other words, she starts to feel that she's the one who gets to decide if he's worthy of her time or affection. Women don't want to feel like they are in control of the decision-making process, especially when it comes to intimate matters. This dynamic is incredibly important because women, by nature, tend to assess a man's value based on more than just what he says. They gauge how he makes them feel, how he holds himself, and how they connect emotionally. So when a man adopts an auditioning mindset, it signals insecurity and neediness, which directly lowers his perceived value. Women don't want to feel like they are being won over. They want to feel that a connection is genuine, mutual, and based on authentic chemistry. This brings me to a technique that can completely shift your approach and help you avoid this pitfall: the chemistry check. The idea here is simple. Rather than focusing on winning her approval, take a step back and assess the situation from a place of curiosity. Ask yourself, do we have good chemistry? Instead of hoping she'll pick you, assess whether you truly feel a connection with her. Are you both in sync? Is there a natural spark that excites you? If you approach the interaction with a mindset of curiosity and genuine interest, your energy changes completely. You become more relaxed, more confident, and more engaging. You are no longer auditioning for a role. You are assessing whether there's enough chemistry for you to want to pursue something further. This shift is significant because it mirrors how women approach interactions. When a woman meets a man, she doesn't immediately commit herself to the idea of a relationship or intimacy. She's assessing the connection, feeling out whether there's a mutual spark or not. So when you approach her with the same mentality, curious, open, and assessing, you put yourself on an equal footing. You stop coming across as desperate and start appearing more grounded and confident. What's important to note here is that when a man shifts from auditioning to assessing, the entire dynamic of the interaction changes. Women naturally respect men who are comfortable in their own skin, and don't feel the need to chase validation. If a man isn't desperately trying to win her over, she starts to see him as a higher value individual. After all, the man who knows his worth and doesn't need to try too hard is exactly the type of man women find attractive. Consider this. If you were a man who had a variety of women interested in you, someone who could easily attract women everywhere you went, would you still feel the need to audition for a woman's attention? Absolutely not. You would naturally assess whether there's enough chemistry for you to be interested in her, but you wouldn't feel the need to prove yourself. This is the power of abundance. When you're not needy, your value increases, and women will treat you accordingly. Women are intuitive and can sense when a man is confident and when he's trying too hard. It's important to understand that women are not motivated by the same things that men are. For men, attraction is often more visually driven. A woman looks good, and that can trigger desire. But for women, it's not just about looks. It's about how a man makes her feel during the interaction. This difference is crucial. Women don't just say yes to anyone. They need to feel a connection, something deeper. So when you enter the interaction with a mindset of assessing the chemistry rather than auditioning for her approval, you set yourself apart. You'll be able to gauge whether she's as interested in you as you are in her. And if there's no real connection, you can gracefully move on without feeling rejected or desperate. In real life, this technique works wonders. It can be applied in any social situation, whether you're talking to a woman at a party, a colleague at work, or someone you're dating. The key is to always stay grounded and focus on whether the connection feels genuine. If you're constantly seeking validation, you'll end up with relationships that are based on superficial attraction, and that's rarely fulfilling for either party. But when you approach interactions with authenticity and the understanding that chemistry is a two-way street, women will naturally be drawn to you, respecting you more, and feeling more invested in the connection. To wrap things up, remember this. Women are assessing you as much as you're assessing them. When you shift from an auditioning mindset to an assessing mindset, you elevate your value and transform the dynamic of the interaction. Confidence, self-respect, and emotional self-sufficiency will always win over desperation and neediness. So the next time you find yourself talking to a woman, don't try to impress her or win her approval. Simply assess whether there's enough chemistry for you to pursue her. This subtle yet powerful shift will change the way women perceive you and significantly increase your chances of success. If you find this valuable, comment below and share it with someone who could benefit. Comment to remember, I am a high-value man. 2. Over-explaining yourself. Number 2. Over-explaining yourself instead of owning what you say. So if you keep clarifying what you meant when you're talking to a woman, or checking to see if she's still interested after you've said something, or if you keep justifying your words or your position on things, she sees that as low value. A man who genuinely believes in what he says doesn't feel the need to repeatedly reassure others, especially a woman. It's not about being careless with your words or taking the stance of, I don't care what anyone thinks, but it's about speaking with conviction. When a man communicates with certainty, there's no need to excessively explain himself. Women can easily detect when a man feels the need to explain every detail, often interpreting it as a sign of lower value. It's not that your words have to be flawless, but if you're constantly re-explaining or seeking validation from her, you're signaling that you don't believe in your own worth. A man of high value understands that he doesn't need constant approval or validation. He speaks his mind, stands by his words, and doesn't scramble to fix them if they aren't perfectly received. The difference lies in mindset. When you approach a conversation with self-assurance, even if your message isn't perfectly communicated, you remain confident in your value. If a man truly believes he is worthy, there's no need to go above and beyond to sell himself. He knows his worth, and that alone is enough to make him appear valuable in the eyes of others. In modern life, this behavior is especially important because it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to be perfect in everything we say and do. The pressure to appear flawless or to always say the right thing can be overwhelming. But the truth is, authenticity trumps perfection. Women, like all people, can sense when someone is trying too hard, and it's often seen as a lack of confidence. Instead, focus on speaking with assurance and trusting that your value doesn't depend on whether someone agrees with everything you say. When you approach interactions from a place of self-belief, you create a dynamic where you are not seeking her approval, but instead, you're sharing your thoughts and views as a man who is sure of himself. This subtle shift in how you communicate will naturally increase your value in her eyes and make you more attractive. 3. You're willing to accept anything about her. The next one on the list of 5 things that you shouldn't do around women because it lowers your value is seeming like you're willing to accept anything about her. If she gets a sense that when you're interacting with her, you're willing to overlook any bad behavior, any signs of disrespect from her towards you, and you're essentially looking at her as being perfect no matter what, then she sees that as a lower value position. You're coming from a place where you see her as being higher value than you, and you're basically willing to accept anything about her because, wow, she's got value, and you need some of that. Yet, if you have value as a man, and you'll notice this with guys who are naturally good with women, you will naturally start to lose a bit of interest in her if she's behaving in a way that seems a bit disrespectful, or if she's behaving in a way that you don't like, or if she says some things about herself, or reacts and responds in a way that you don't really like. Then you're not going to be seeing her as perfect, and if you're honestly using that chemistry check, she's going to pick up on that, where you start to look at her a little bit differently. You start to have a bit of a different reaction to her, and she can sense that. If you've been making her feel attracted during the interaction, and she senses that she might actually be losing some of your interest, then she becomes the one who is peddling and scrambling. She's the one who is going to lose what she wants. She starts to feel like she's going to lose something valuable because you are not a guy who is just going to accept whatever. You're not a desperate guy. If you're willing to accept anything about her, you're lowering your value. As a man of wisdom, remember this. You don't need to tolerate disrespect or behavior that doesn't align with your standards. If you agree with this, drop a comment right now. I am a man who values myself. Like this video, subscribe for more unshakable wisdom, and remind yourself daily, you are not here to settle, you are here to elevate. 4. Uncomfortable with silence. One of the quickest ways to lower your value in a woman's eyes is by being uncomfortable with silence. It's natural for conversations to ebb and flow, with pauses sometimes taking place. What matters is how you handle these pauses. When you're engaging with a woman, the goal isn't to fill every gap with words or to rush to fill awkward silences. Instead, it's about showing her that you're completely at ease with the natural rhythm of conversation, including moments of silence. A woman will notice how you react to those pauses, and it speaks volumes about your self-worth. If, in that moment, you feel like you're losing her attention or that you're somehow less valuable in the dynamic, it will show in your body language and energy. You may start fidgeting or becoming restless, shifting your posture, or hastily asking her questions, trying to re-engage her. While you might think you're hiding your anxiety, she will sense it. She'll pick up on your nervous energy, which could give off the impression that you're scrambling or worried. But a man who values himself, who exudes confidence, won't react in this way. He will remain calm and composed, unaffected by a moment of silence. It's not that he should embrace silence indefinitely, staring at her to assert dominance. Rather, he knows that silence isn't a threat. He understands that his value doesn't waver over a simple pause, and he's secure enough to allow the conversation to unfold naturally. The key here is this. He knows she's still interested, and that a brief lull doesn't diminish his worth. If you want to come across as a high-value man, the ability to embrace the silence with ease will show that you're confident, secure, and emotionally in control. Traits that are far more appealing than trying to desperately fill every moment with words. 5. Needing her validation to feel confident about yourself. And now, Number 5. On the 5 things you shouldn't do around a woman because it lowers your value. Needing her reactions to feel confident about your value. The thing is, a guy may be quite accomplished in life. He may have a good job. He may dress well. He may do this or that. And if he's interacting with a woman, and she then senses that he's not quite sure about his value in her eyes, and he's waiting for signs of approval from her before he can feel good about himself, then that lowers his value in her eyes. Now, if that same woman were to interact with another guy who wasn't as accomplished as him, right? He was just working in a normal job. He wore quite normal clothes, but he was interacting with her in a way where he was certain about himself. He was giving himself approval rather than looking for her approval. Then she would look at him as a guy who isn't looking up to her as the valuable one and hoping to get a chance with her. Instead, he actually sees himself as quite valuable. Some guys watching this may be thinking, well, no, but she wouldn't want him because he's not that accomplished in life. But the reality is that most men and women get together when the guy is still trying to figure things out in life, when he's still working in quite an ordinary job, or even guys get together with their girlfriend when they're working a casual job or a part-time job. For most women, it's not about what you've already accomplished in life. It's what sort of potential you have as a man. What sort of feeling is she getting from you? Are you the sort of man that she can look up to and respect? Or is it a case where you're looking at her as the higher value one and you're hoping that she gives you a chance somehow? What sort of feeling are you giving her? It's those subtle things that allow guys to get results with women, even though they haven't been working out. Not that there's anything wrong with working out. It does make a guy look more attractive. Or guys who are short, and they get with a pretty girl. Or guys who are a little bit chubby, and they get with a pretty girl. Or a guy who's still living with his parents, and he gets with a pretty girl. Right, because he's able to interact with her and give her the feeling that she's looking for. She's able to look at him as a guy who has value. She's feeling attracted to him, and even though he's not accomplished yet in life, she's still feeling attracted to him. And that doesn't mean he can get every woman out there, because there are women who will only want to be with a guy if he's rich and successful. Right? Those women exist. But the majority of women really are assessing you based on how you're making them feel as you interact with them, which is why you can start interacting with a woman and make her feel attracted. Right? That sort of stuff does happen, even though a guy is just an ordinary guy. It's important that you understand that, and you get the subtle stuff right, because no matter what you achieve in life, the same type of rejection is going to happen for you if you're interacting with women in a way that conveys lower value, right? It doesn't matter how much you achieve. It doesn't matter how cool your hairstyle is. It doesn't matter how great your clothes are. If she gets that sense from you, where she feels like you're lower value, she's just not going to be able to feel that attraction that causes her to want to have sex or a relationship with you. But if she's getting that feeling where you seem higher value than her, you seem higher value than her, she starts to look at you as a man that she would be lucky to get with, right? It's not a case of you're lucky to get a chance with her. Instead, she starts to get that feeling with you. I just hope that you can understand this and not waste years or decades of your life thinking that one day, if you achieve more in life, then women will suddenly start to see your value. Because if you're unable to make women feel your value when you're interacting with them, then you're going to continue to get rejected by the women that you want. And you may get chances with women that you're not attracted to or you don't really want. And what's the point of going to all that effort in your life, then of trying so hard to achieve things, when you're not even going to get the sort of woman that you really want to be with? You're not going to be proud of her. You're not going to feel good about yourself, when right now you could be shifting the dynamic and making the woman see you as higher value and therefore start attracting the types of women that you really want. Hey there, thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more valuable content like this. And hey, I'd love to hear what you think. If you've got any feedback, or if there's anything you'd like to discuss about today's topic, drop a comment below. I always read them and enjoy hearing your thoughts. Remember, in the journey of becoming the best version of yourself, The way you interact with others, especially women, plays a huge role. Stay wise, stay calm, and always be the best you can be. See you in the next one.